Hello people, this is New Sensei. I will be planning to do a what's the difference video on rest, and this is a popular topic. However, I do want to quickly cover the bottom end of the rest. I normally cover the comparison between top end and bottom end, but in this case there are several bottom end options, really cheap options, which look very similar. So I want to take this chance to go through what these are. Now, there are two general kinds of plastic rests, and they cost around $2 US each. You have the hunter rests, which are normally black, and you can see they have very thick arms. And then you have the super rest, like the Kato super rest, the Hoyt super rest, the EXE super rest, and most stores only stock like one of each kind, but Lancaster, being one of the largest retailers, stock a lot. So you have these two different kinds of cheap rest, and they're both good, by the way. They're not bad because they're cheap, they're actually quite useful for particular reasons. So what are the differences between the hunter rest and the super rest? So here we have the OMP hunter rest and the Hoyt Eastern hunter rest. Basically the same sort of thing. Both of them are black, which seem to be the industry standard for some reason, and both of them have very thick arms, as you can see there. And this is the Hoyt Super Rest. It's the white plastic design. Again, all the Super Rests tend to be white plastic. This one's a little crooked, but that's okay. But you can see the idea is still the same thing. So there's the arm. It's very much a thinner design compared to the Hunter Rest. You can see here, that's the side-by-side comparison. So the white Super Rest is a very thin design, while the black Hunter Rest is a much thicker design. Your first question might be, well, does that mean that the Super Rest is much flimsier and less durable? In some ways, yes. It is thin plastic. It will eventually develop a tear, and it will rip off after a shot. There was one time in, I think, 1 month or 1 week where I broke two rests like back to back. So they both had tiny nicks, and after some shooting, the arm basically just fell off, and that was a pretty bad thing because it was right in the middle of the competition. That was the fastest rest switch I've ever done, but yeah, I do have some bad experiences with the Super Rest. But that's actually just bad luck sometimes. You can actually shoot hundreds of arrows through a Super Rest and it will be fine. And don't laugh, but some top-end elite shooters still use the Super Rest. This was the top end of the rest technology about 20 years ago. All the top shooters were using these kind of rests because they were cheap, easily replaceable, and quite functional. So this is not a bad rest. Don't think that because it's $2 that it's a flimsy, cheap piece of plastic. It is a cheap, flimsy piece of plastic, but it does the job well. And like I said, you can shoot hundreds, if not thousands of arrows through this kind of rest. And I think that once you get past maybe 1,000 arrows, it might get a little worn out and you might replace it, but it's only $2. The hunter rest, on the other hand, is much sturdier. That will not break. I mean, look how thick the arm is. That width there and that stiffness means that it's going to be much more durable. So if you're worried about the rest breaking, but you don't want to spend like $40 on a rest, this is a good option. This will not break, and I haven't used one for a prolonged period of time, but potentially this could last nearly forever. There's no reason why this would spontaneously fail. So why would there be any reason to use a Super Rest over a Hunter Rest? There actually is a good point to this. The stiffness and durability of the Hunter Rest isn't always a good thing. Now, the main advantage to the Hunter Rest is that you don't really need to replace it. However, the stiffness and the thickness of the arm means that it's a little less flexible. And one of the problems with that is that it can interfere with the arrow leaving the bow. The arrow relies on these kind of rests flipping forward. So if you use the magnetic rests, which flip forward and flip back, that means the arrow rest clears the way for the arrow to go through as it passes, so it doesn't catch onto the back of the arrow or the fletchings on the way out. These really thick hunter rests aren't as good at doing that, whereas the thinner super rest easily does so. You basically just nudge it forward and it's almost as good as a middle rest. It's very responsive, it gets out of the way really easily, so while it might be less durable, it actually functions much better as a rest, and you might find that your shots and your groupings will be slightly better with a super rest as compared to a hunter rest. The super rest is better if you're looking for a bit more accuracy for target shooting with your own bow. If you're looking for more durability, like you intend to bring this in the field or you want to send a lot of arrows through and you don't really care about that pinpoint precision, then the hunter rests are designed for that purpose. What I normally do is that for someone starting out in target archery with Olympic recurve and they don't have a magnetic rest, then we give them the super rest or any super rest, because that's basically what's designed for, a very cheap entry level target rest. And those super rests can be used for any bow. But for the club bows, while we do sometimes use spare super rests for club bows, I find that these for hunted rests are better, because club bows do get mishandled quite easily. The beginners can be quite rough on them, they might shoot the arrows clean through, and you don't want to replace club equipment that often. It's very tedious and time consuming, so you want to give club equipment some durable stuff at the cost of pinpoint precision, because the beginners aren't going to achieve that with club equipment. So I prefer these hunter rests for club equipment, as well as any bow which you just don't really care about in terms of supreme accuracy, like your hunting bow or your field bow, if you're going really cheap for your rest. But if you're using a plastic rest for a target bow that you want to use for competition and you don't want to spend $60 on a Shibuya, then a $2 super rest is a good alternative. Anyway, that's my quick comparison between the hunter rest and the super rest. I will be doing a much more comprehensive video on rest in general, but for people who are wondering about the differences between the two cheapest kinds of rest, then there you go. This is New Sensei, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.